he backed down. And he has abruptly stepped down from the threats on Greenland. He ruled out the use of force and said that tariffs will not be imposed. In fact, his statement on Truth Social followed a meeting with the NATO Secretary General, and Trump suggested that the Western Arctic allies could forge a new deal on Greenland. He said, and I quote, "It's a deal that everybody is happy with, very happy with. It's a long-term deal. It's the ultimate long-term deal. It puts everybody in a really good position, especially as it pertains to security and to minerals. It's a deal that's forever," unquote. You've also had the fact that there's another, in fact, statement by the NATO spokesperson. He was quoted by agencies, and I quote that as well. "Negotiations between Denmark, Greenland, and the United States will go forward, aimed at ensuring that Russia and China never get a foothold economically or militarily in Greenland," unquote. So there's a response from the other side. By the way, Greenland has chosen not to respond, and Denmark has said that conversations should be had in a bilateral fashion and behind closed doors, and these statements should not be made on social media. But you had US stocks that jumped immediately after that statement was released. You had Treasury yields that fell after Trump's tariff rollback. You had the Dow that gained over 1%. All of those indices actually gaining over 1%. The 11 sectors on the S&P 500 rose as well, led by energy, and the dollar index recovered ground it had lost after the threat of those tariffs came to bear. US yields have fallen as much as 5 basis points on the long end, and gold, which is, as you know, a safe haven, has cooled off from fresh record highs. Let's take a look at the Asia-Pacific region, and it'll be a pool of green, and it is in fact all trading in the green at this moment. The implied open for India also suggesting that we could have a bounce back. Of course, we've headed lower. Quite a few of those important levels have been hit on the downside as well. But Donald Trump's headline-grabbing speech yesterday dominated the chatter at Davos. NDTV Profit's Tamanna Inamdar joins us from Ground Zero with the top takeaways from that fiery showstopper event at the World Economic Forum. Listen in.
Hi, on this edition of the Davos Dispatch for India Market Open, it's obviously all about the USA, and you can see that from the backdrop I'm standing in front of, and the speech that President Trump made, the address here at the World Economic Forum. Of course, US markets zoomed after he said he has no intention of using force, even though he wants to start a conversation on acquiring Greenland. I was covering the session from outside, all of the reactions, but I want to bring in my colleague Ayush Alavadi, who was actually inside the hall when that speech was being made. Ayush, were there visible gasps every time he attacked another world leader?
Tamanna, that's actually the best way to sum it all up, because I was actually sitting with a bunch of different journalists and leaders from European nations, and all of them seem to react the same way, saying this is a very bold statement every time that they were called out. You're sitting in Switzerland, you're sitting in Davos, and you are calling them out as well about tariffs in Switzerland, what's happening in France with what Emmanuel Macron came up and said, and of course we know all about the history with the leaked messages. Of course there were guests, to sum it all up for you. And standing outside USA House, Tamanna, you were on the outside, and you got so many exclusive visuals from there as well. You saw those serpentine queues. It was 1.5 hours to get into the main hall, and then we saw what unfolded inside.
Right. I describe it as the greatest hits of Trump. He ticked all of those boxes. Emmanuel Macron, of course, made the list. Mike Carney, the Canadian Prime Minister, sitting right in the front, of course, made the list.
The Governor of California as well.
The Governor of California.
Who wasn't very happy when we spoke to him.
His ever-favorite Jerome Powell, don't forget him. Powell made the list as well, though he had nothing to do with it. Netanyahu got pulled in for some reason. Green scam was among it. But I would say that US markets are up because of that one line where he's saying he doesn't plan to use force. And perhaps you will see something like that in India, because remember, we were not on that laundry list. There was nothing negative said about India, and we're pending that US trade deal. And actually, at this point, no comment is the best possible outcome for any nation dealing with Trump.
Absolutely. He did say, of course, he did mention the India-Pakistan situation, saying that that's about the only thing he did say.
Yeah, nothing negative about India.
He said a couple of other things as well, which were interesting. One about AI. He alluded to what China is doing with AI, the fact that they're using older chips 6 months behind, but he respects what they're doing. He needs them to contribute with the energy requirement, because you need twice the amount of energy to run this whole AI revolution in the the US. And he also spoke about crypto, talking about how he doesn't want this crypto market to go away to China, and hence he is spearheading that whole movement in the US as well. So there were two more statements there, of course, and then there was a bunch of other comments about certain things which were personal remarks about certain leaders and stuff like that. But these ones there was a method to the madness when he made these statements, especially about tech, Tamanna.
Yeah, I don't know what the extent of the method is, but it was a 45-minute address which went on for an hour and a half. So a lot to unpack, and I'm sure you're going to see all of those repercussions through the day in India as well.